I saw this show up on Threads or Blue Sky. It was posted by B. Dave Walters, who DM'd for the Stranger Things a lot. He's been on a few other actual play shows as well that you may or may not be familiar with. He shared it and said, whoever put it together, this is a great list of things. This is a player pre-game checklist that you can follow to go through to prepare yourself for a game. Because yes, I do think players should do some prep too. Maybe that's because I'm a grumpy DM that is grumpy that I'm the one doing all the prep and the players don't have to. But these are some useful things that you can do to get yourself into the zone before a game. And I wanted to share it with you because I thought it'd be really helpful. First of all, review your spells, your items, and your abilities. Have a look at what your character can do, what they're ready to do, and how they can tackle various situations, because it will really help you to avoid the analysis paralysis of a situation. And also it will familiarize yourself with how your abilities work. And this is something that I think you should do. Go through your character sheet, have a look at what you can do, because something might jump out at you and you might go, damn, if only I'd known about that last session, I could have used that then. And the more you do it, the more familiar you're going to get with your character and the less you're going to be caught off guard. But also, as this checklist suggests, have a look and see if there's anything that you're actually going to particularly look for an opportunity to use during this session so that you can try something new and lean into all of the abilities that your character has. Next, review your background, your backstory in particular, but also your background features as well, of course, which you will have looked at a moment ago with the previous point. But also looking at your backstory and what you have written about your character. Just familiarize yourself with that. And ask yourself the question whether or not there is something in particular that you want to reveal about your character during this session, and if you want to find an opportunity to do so. Avoid, if you can, splurging your entire backstory out all at once, particularly if your character's joining the campaign this session. I've seen it many times where I'll introduce a character and I will say to the player, tell the rest of the group what your character looks like. And they will say, oh yeah, he's an elf with blonde hair. And he grew up in this place. He is enemies with this person. He's wanted for this particular crime. And suddenly all of the mystery about the character is gone. Avoid giving everything away, but just pick a little bit of a tidbit of information. Let's say, for example, that your character is a noble, descended from nobility and from a very rich background, but they're out on the road. You might choose to reveal that you had a childhood experience where you went to this very wealthy place. Just to drop the hint to the other players that there's more to your character than meets the eye. Something like that, for example. Review your bonds, ideals, and flaws. Look at those, because those are key roleplay prompts for you. What is it that your character wants to protect? What are your character's core beliefs? And what is a big character flaw that your character has that often will get them into a spot of bother if they're not careful? And how can you lean into those? Because these will really help to elevate your character and bring some of those qualities out. Think about what your character wants to accomplish specifically during this next session. You're probably going to have some sort of idea as to what situation your characters are coming into for this particular session and what the goal is for the session. Now, it could be that your character wants to simply complete the quest, which is fine. But it could be that there's an aspect of this quest that does tie into your backstory, or perhaps your ideals, your bonds, and your flaws. So having looked at all of the other stuff that you've just looked at, think about what of those might feed into this upcoming quest, and therefore, is there something in particular that you want to accomplish alongside the main quest objective, for example. And then finally, and this is a big one, clarify any rules or gameplay questions that you have. So if you're looking at any of your abilities and going, I'm not fully sure how that is going to work, you could do a really good thing, particularly with the new Player's Handbook, taking the Player's Handbook, going to the rules glossary, and taking a look at what the invisible condition means, for example, or how to jump across long distances. Just anything that you think might come up about your character where you're like, oh, I'm not fully sure how that should work. Read it up. Read up on it. Find out how it should work. Because then it's going to really help. Your dungeon master is actually going to be very, very grateful if you do, because it's going to allow them to focus on the story rather than having to look up rules or make rulings on the fly because they're not sure about things. If the dungeon master equally says, no, that's not how it works in my campaign, that is their prerogative as a dungeon master. But at least if you're coming in having an idea of what the rule should be and what the ruling should be, that's going to do so much to actually move the game forward and keep it moving at a nice pace. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys today because I think it's a really useful list of things that players can do before a session to really make that session run smoothly. So that is my player tip for this week.